Well, hello everyone, and happy Friday, and welcome to Not Through the Static, but Get a Grip with Coach Elix. Somehow, we have Steven's intro, which is fine because we love that intro, anyways. But today's show is Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Steven the Medium.
Stephen the Medium, who is my husband, my amazing, best part of my life and my everything. So, and also an attorney, and he talks to dead people. How about that? So, Stephen, how are you?
Excellent. I mean, I had my theme song played. People just want me.
The universe. I know.
They want
me. The universe. Oh God. Do I ever hear that? Mark, do you think that's a daily conversation I hear? They all want,
It's tiring.
You sound like Sally Fields, when she accepted her Oscar. They love me. They really, really love me. Anyways.
I'm sorry. That is way before my time. Sorry.
It's still a classic. So
okay, thank you.
Regardless, you should know
Gentlemen?
that. Yes, sir?
The boss said, I'm sorry, oops.
No need to say you're sorry. I loved it.
We go with it. We just dance with it. That's fine. That's totally fine.
We are good now.
We're good.
No, we're good to go. And so anyways, nevertheless, today's a very special Friday. It's a special month because it's October. It's my birthday month. And my birthday happens to be Monday, so it's not today, but we're going to celebrate it today, Stephen.
Happy birthday.
Maybe next week as well. Thank you. So I'm a little disappointed that Mark can't play the happy birthday song, but I think that would get us into trouble.
He could hum it.
With the, is it the FAA? I think it is. So we're not going to do that, but, maybe you can sing happy birthday in Spanish, I don't know.
Sure.
You have between now and next week to think about it.
Sure.
So,
as long as I don't get in trouble.
No, I don't think so. So Stephen, I know we have a lot going on.
Sure.
So tell people what it is that you're up to. I know this is going to be a busy weekend for you. And so is next weekend, and then we're heading to Palm Springs. So tell people what you're up to.
And for both of us, it's a busy month. October is a busy, busy month. So tomorrow I am doing an event at the American Legion in Rainham, which I'm really excited about because it's offering food. I think it's salad and pizza and chicken wings. And these people are just so darn nice. There's two co-chairs. There's Nancy, who I'm dealing with, and another co-chair. And it starts, I think, at 5:30 to eat. And then I come on at 7 to do my thing, to do reading. So I'm really, really excited about it. And I did mention that there's still tickets left. This is a big venue, and unbeknownst to me, you can't buy tickets at the door. So a lot of people do that. So just make sure, I posted on social media that you cannot do that. You have to actually get them ahead of time. And I think it's just connected to making sure they know exactly how much food they need for tomorrow. So that's really exciting. And then the following weekend...
And Stephen, if people want to buy tickets, how would they get tickets? Just go to your website and find it?
Yeah, just go to my website, stephenthemedium.com. I'm not selling the tickets, but the information is on my website, so you can just take a look. I think there's two numbers you can call to get tickets from both those two co-chairs. So make sure you don't miss this if you're anywhere on the earth. I don't care where you are, just come. Just come. And you get to see Elix, too. How wild is that? And these events are always life-changing for many people, very emotional, and loved ones just coming in and coming through. And as I always say, you do not need to be standing in front of me being read to get messages. The Spirit's so smart that they will select things that hit people. And at the end of, you probably know this, Elix, at the end of those like bigger groups I do, people come up to me and
all the time.
I think one of the biggest things that they'll say, or the most common things they'll say to me is, when you were with such and such, or this woman or this guy, it really sounded like that was my father or my best friend or my mother. And I always say it was. Just because I was there with another person doesn't mean it's not for you. And quickly, Elix, I did a reading with two women yesterday, and I was asking about this little boy. This boy that I knew it was a miscarriage. He was never born, and I kept asking the second person. There was two people, and I was already on the second half of the reading, and I was with the second person, and I kept asking, and she kept saying, "I don't know, I don't know," and then the other one came forward and said, this could be blah, blah, blah. And what happened was, if you're not getting it, or if you're not taking it, and ultimately she did this, the one I was talking to did get it, but if you're not getting it right then, if it's very closely connected to someone else, they'll just take the spot. They'll just jump right in. So this woman, the other woman that was like, I think I may know who this is. It was her daughter had a miscarriage. And then ultimately the other one figured out and found out and remembered her mother had a miscarriage. So it was pretty wild in how many commonalities in both of those validations. So you can come and see how that works. And next weekend, you and I head down to Connecticut to
Yes.
on Friday, on the 10th, I think it is, or the 11th. I'm going to be on Great Day, Connecticut, promoting my book, which is The Suicide Gift, and you can get that on Amazon or Instagram, or go to my website and you get the links there too. It's a really great read. And then the following day, which is the Saturday of the holiday weekend, I will be at two Barnes & Nobles, one in Glastonbury and one in Enfield. So that's a big weekend.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
and I'm super excited. I can't wait to be part of that. And by the way, tomorrow I'm most excited because I know I'm getting a birthday cake. That happens to be my favorite cake. From
Yay,
Greg.
Denise!
Denise is bringing me my coconut raspberry cake from Greg's in Rhode Island, and I'm telling you, I just can't. I'm not going to eat anything just so I can have cake.
Yeah, I'm not sure Denise understands what that means. And you adopted that from me when I introduced you to Greg's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've known this all along. I mean, I love cake and ice cream for my birthday. That's like a thing for me. But coconut raspberry cake, oh my, it's it's beyond this world. So, and most of the time I have to sacrifice my coconut cake because guess what? Steven Masek, it's not his favorite. So, I have to go with something else, which is not bad because their chocolate cake is to die for also. But I can't wait.
You do a lot of sacrificing, just saying.
I sure do.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
And then the following week. Oh, by the way, I also want to say kudos to cousin Eva. She is heading here, and she's going to help us babysit our Dante. Oh my God.
Are you pulling in Chow Chow?
I guess so. I can't believe I just said that. Django, and she's gonna stay here because the following week we're heading to California, to LA and Palm Springs, and that will be my celebratory birthday birthday gift. So I'm so, oh my goodness, Steven, I can't wait. I feel like I need it. Sometimes you need that break. And you say that a lot, that sometimes those are things that sort of is an opportunity to just put you first and take care of you and pamper yourself.
If you're someone, I'm sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead.
If you're someone who says, I was gonna do something this year, but you know what? Financially, I'm sort of wobbly, or I'll just do it next year, or I'm gonna visit my aunt. I was gonna do it, this week, but I'll wait till next month. It's better. The kids are in school, and you're just waiting for the rug pulled out underneath your feet because. Do not get in that setting. Of course, you can't do every single thing you want to do, but for the most part, if you're thinking about doing something and you have whatever reason to do it, just do it. Just get it done, because this nothing's guaranteed. We don't know who is going to be here tomorrow or the next second, right?
And the thing, Stephen, how often, I'm saying this. Of course, it's my birthday, and I'm taking the opportunity to celebrate my birthday and make it a big deal. But it doesn't have to be a birthday. You can just celebrate for the sake of celebrating, right? You don't have to. Or often, how many times do we hear people? I'll do it next year, or I'll do it when, and someday, right? And that someday often doesn't come.
Well, that's what I just said. It's like
Yeah.
waiting till next month, next year. Yeah, exactly what I just said. It's you just can't get in that
Yeah.
sort of mindset. You just can't.
And one of the things that you've taught me, especially things like Valentine's, right? That's a day where, oh my God, you're supposed to buy flowers for your loved one and tell them you love them and buy them this beautiful card. That's fine, but that should be a daily thing. That should be an often thing. Like, you don't have to wait for those special days to do something for yourself or do something for someone else. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
a pet peeve of mine. It just is. It's just my opinion. It's just my experience. I don't know. Because several months ago, I just posted this big thing about my mom. It was I think this was last year, and it was probably about a year ago. It was probably like September or October. And a couple of people said, is it her anniversary? Is it her birthday? And I'm like, no. I mean, like National Sons Day, National Daughters Day, National Dog Day. Why is it that we just have to put everything that day, that day, that day, that day? Why not just pick a day and say, here's my son, here's my daughter, here's my dog, right? I mean, it's crazy how everyone just follows that one day and feels that need that they have to do it. It's urgent. Everyone else is doing it, and I need to do it. And I just think that's a little cuckoo.
I agree. I agree. And I think that's a perfect segue for today's conversation, which, by the way, it was your topic of choice. Because Stephen and I often talk about what are some of the topics that we like to bring to our show to talk to you about. And Stephen, you said, how about the power of the mind? And what I love when we bring these topics to you guys, these are not topics that we bring and we're exploring them with you. These is things that we live every day. In fact, Stephen and I had a conversation this morning about the power of the mind, the mindset, and how that determines, how life goes. So we're going to take a small break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into the power of our minds. And, we are going to see how our mind can influence our reality, our health, our happiness, and our success. So let's take a small break. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium, who is my amazing husband and an attorney, and he talks to dead people. And today we are talking about the power of the mind. What an amazing conversation. And today's show really is about exploring the extraordinary potential that is locked within each of us. You know, our minds have the ability to shape our reality, fuel our success, transform our lives, whether it's overcoming challenges, achieving personal breakthroughs, or mastering the art of positive thinking. This is a conversation that's going to help us dive into how to harness the power of our mind and how that can lead us to a great life. So, Stephen, you came up with this subject. You thought it was an important conversation to have with our listeners. Why?
Well, I think the biggest reason is that most people don't know their power. They don't know how powerful they are. And and I say most people because it's most people do not understand the power that is within them, the power of their mind, the power of their thoughts. There's so many different levels to this that most people don't know. And part of why I wanted to do the power of the mind is that it also is being able to understand that you can pull yourself out of the physical aspect of you and pass those five, senses and become multisensory and be able to understand that you have a higher self and that you can connect to spirit. And there's a whole universe of help in spirit that can help you here in the physical world. So that's really, I thought it was a great subject matter because most people don't understand how powerful they are.
And I love that, Stephen, because you always bring that connection into our conversations, and that is a deeper connection. That is a conversation that you don't hear everywhere, because there is a lot of you can find stuff about the power of the mind, but I don't think that those conversations linked to how to make that connection to the spirit world and how to use that to get better messages. I guess that's what I heard you say.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it's all about. It's just really sort of opening your eyes to a level you never opened to realize what's there. It's almost like an analogy of doing yard work or doing cutting your grass or doing landscape, and you want your yard to look wonderful, and as you cut you cut the whole yard with the lawnmower, and on the side of the driveway is this like brand new trimmer that you just don't pick up. You walk by it and you're stressed out and you're aggravated that the neighbor's house looks so much better on the edges, but you just don't pick that up. It's right there in front of you. It's ready to work. It's full of gas. It's full of oil, but you just don't pick it up to be able to trim those edges and make them look like beautiful. You just don't do it, even though it's right in front of you. That's exactly what the not understanding how powerful we are. It's right there, but we just don't know. We just don't know how to access it. We don't know how to gain it, and most importantly, we don't trust it or we don't believe it.
Yeah. So the question is, so how do we begin to know, right? To have that sense of mindfulness, to know that it's there. Because if you don't know, then you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. But the moment you do know, then you have that choice of, okay, I'll do business as usual, or now I know there's another option, and I'm gonna do that. That makes sense?
Yeah, of course, and the reason why I don't say that in sort of a blame way. I just say that in just a worldly way, because that's how we all grow up That's how we're conditioned, and whether it's through parents or schooling, and no one ever talks to us about that higher self or the power of the mind. It really is more at the, when I said the higher self, it's really at the lower self, which is really the ego, but that's also contains the physicality and like what we need to do. Like, again, you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to get a good job, you have to be successful, you have to be, in a great business. And there's nothing there that sort of is scripted. It's more than just that. You have your mind that's not being used.
Okay. Let's I'm curious to do something like that, because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about, how our thoughts play this crucial role in shaping our reality, right? Every day, because they do influence how we perceive the world, how we feel about ourselves, and ultimately what we do, how we act. And they do this in a few ways. So I'm gonna throw a few things, and I want you to, I'm gonna share with you my way of looking at it, but I'm curious to hear from you, from that spiritual connection. What else would you add to that? So first thing is, how thoughts shape our reality, perception, and interpretation, right? Because our thoughts, they act as filters. We talked about this morning. And those filters are the way we interpret events and experiences. So, for example, two people can encounter the same thing happening to them, yet they can interpret that same thing differently based on their mindset. One person may see it as a setback or a failure, while the other person sees it as a learning opportunity. And that interpretation is really shaped by our thoughts, which determine how we respond to those challenges and opportunities. So, what would you say to someone who comes to you and you already know they're looking at something through that filter of setback and failure?
Well, that's me. I mean, in the past, when you just said that, when you said, what would you say, or like, how would you respond to someone that came to you? And I was thinking, well, I came to me because I live that. I live that being just, I've said this before, with what happened with me and the trauma of my dad taking his life. I live that. I live that the not good enough, the hating, all of that. And I think one of the best things, to start with is, I call it observe, contemplate, and choose. I remember hearing something very similar, and I don't remember where I read it or so, but it just has worked so great for me, is that and I just said this to you this morning, Elix, that yesterday I was running, and I did my first full 45-minute run since I got hurt, so I'm very excited about that. But as I was running, I just realized I'm in the woods and I am loving it. It's my peaceful place. It's my home, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. The last two thoughts I had were, how are they helping me? I just thought of two things that already happened, and I was sort of visualizing if those situations come up, or there's like something that is brought up because of those two situations, how would I react? Now, I'm just making this up, right? This could be things that are dead, like that we're not talking about it anymore, but I definitely gave them life, and I thought to myself, I'm running in this gorgeous place, which I love running, and I'm thinking of these two really negative things, and I started thinking about it, and what I used was sort of, I always say the first step is observe, like just stop at 1 second in the day and just observe what your thoughts are. What are you thinking of right now? And if I use my example, I was thinking of this incident that already happened that really got me very, very upset. I wanted to be, I just wanted to get my point across, and it didn't get across. And so I was observing it. And then I was then the second step is sort of contemplating it. Like why am I bringing this in? Why is it still sitting in me? And And how is it making me feel? And then the third piece was choosing. Do I choose to keep doing that and pick even more or go back to that? Or do I choose to think of something that I'm so grateful for? And I'm telling you, Elix, and I told you this morning, I started thinking of something that we're working on that I'm so excited about, and even my back wasn't as tight. It flipped in a second when I switched what I was thinking about, and I thought, oh my god! And I felt lighter, I felt better, and then I was able to smell outside the woods and the just and see things more vividly. So observe, contemplate, and choose. I think that's a very good way to start.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Stephen, because there is a lot of science behind the power of the mind, and you highlighted this. The second thing I wanted to mention, which is the emotional influence, because our thoughts directly linked to emotions, to our emotions, and you just describe it beautifully. Positive thoughts can often generate feelings of optimism and confidence, and negative thoughts can lead to stress, fear, frustration. But most importantly, what you highlighted is that over time, habitual patterns of thought can either promote well-being or they can contribute to anxiety, unhappiness, and they can certainly influence the emotional tone of the way we live our lives. That's a beautiful, beautiful example, Stephen. And that, you and I have talked about this. You never looked at this as we've arrived. We got it. We're good. We're perfect. Because our humanness is always going to get in the way. So this is always work in progress. We're always working on this. And sometimes you help me correct. Sometimes I help you correct. But the reality is you got to learn to dance through, through understanding your emotions and understanding how you can make that shift in real time.
And it's not easy. Let me just tell you, anyone listening to this, we're not presenting this as just observe, contemplate, and choose, and you're good. I would think based on the work I've done with myself, I would think that those three things should have been completely solidified, like 10, 12 years ago, and I would be in such a better place. And this just happened yesterday morning that it hit me.
Yeah.
It's what we're conditioned, like this is what we live for many years. It is not easy to start implementing something different. And frankly, there's a lot of fear in that of, if I do that, who am I?
Yes. It requires intention and purpose. And you know what else requires intention and purpose, Steven?
Break.
A break. That's right. Because I can see our producer screaming, time for a break. So we're going to take a small commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue with this conversation, the power of our mind. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium, my husband, and my amazing partner at everything we do. And today we're having an amazing conversation about the power of our mind. And as always, Stephen is adding that very unique perspective of that spiritual connection to the conversation. And Stephen, when I think about the power of our mind, I also one of the other things that gets into my mind right away is how that impacts our beliefs and our self-image, because I think that the thoughts that we repeatedly think in our minds solidify into beliefs about ourselves, right? And perhaps about other people as well. So if you consistently, and you and I have these conversations ongoingly, believe me, I hear this from my clients all the time. If you're consistently feeding that conversation, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't be successful, I'm not going to get that job, then you begin to believe that, which then limits that potential. Conversely, right, positive affirmation and empowering thoughts can help build that self-confidence and a sense of possibility, shaping how we interact with the world and what we achieve. So the question for you, Stephen, easier said than done, but how would you help somebody change that conversation? I can't, I won't.
I mean, that's a doozy of a question, and I think that it has to be able to really start really finding the vehicle for change or changing that. I think really starts with, I love the question, who am I? Is to start with, who am I? Who am I?
That.
And if you ask most people, if I wasn't doing this conversation and I was just a regular person on the street, and who are you? I'd probably say, well, I'm a medium, I was an attorney, and, my sort of response back would be, well, wasn't there a time before you were an attorney and a medium? Well, yes. Well, then you weren't that. So who were you? Well, I was a student. Well, were you a student like when you were 4 years old? No. Well, who were you? Who are you? And I think the moment you realize that we're constant, you said this, Elix, about constantly changing. We're constantly changing, right? So I can't look back at my, I don't know, like 6-month-old me and think that's still me, right? I changed. I don't even have the cells of the same cells that I did, because the cells are completely, dying and new ones are coming. And I think even then, when I became a toddler at 2 years old, that 2-year-old couldn't look back at a picture of the 6-month-old and say, that's me. It would be impossible. You would look like, I don't get that. And then you become a teenager. So we're constantly changing, and really who we were a couple of minutes ago, we're not the same anymore, because cells have already died and they've changed, and it's constantly changing. So I think I only bring that up because I think that once you realize that this is not about us physically, it's about how we're the higher self, we're the soul that's infinite, in that it's birthless, it's deathless, and it's changeless. It's the same, right? It doesn't move. And when you understand that, then I think you can stop backing into, or I would stop backing the person into, okay, so once you've got that, then you have to understand that the personality or the ego or the lower self is really where I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not skinny enough is really stemming from. But then I think you come from a place that way of power, like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. And then and that's how you start doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And that, I love what you said. We are evolving humans. We're evolving human beings, so we're constantly changing, and this is something that requires constant practice. I also think about our thoughts guiding our actions, everything that we do. So when you believe that something is possible, then you likely take those necessary steps because you're thinking something is possible, right? But when you feed your mind to, with the negative or self-limiting thoughts, that can also paralyze action. So how can we change that frequency, Stephen? Because positive and empowering thoughts can propel us to take those risks and be resilient and work towards the goals. But we often have this tendency to feed more the negative and the self-limiting thoughts. How do we change that frequency? And how would you say you use, that spiritual connection to as a tool to change that frequency?
Well, I think you have to start with really taking an inventory of exactly who you are, right? Like what I just asked about, who am I? And again, part of this process is to be able to understand how we're multisensory, and to get there, to be able to know that there's people that are in spirit that had like almost mirror images of our lives or your life. That if you've got a lot of anxiety, they did too. But now they're in spirit, and they're a resource that you can, even if you don't know the person you're asking, you can just ask for. Listen, I want to pull in. You can just close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and say, I want to pull in people that were very, very similar to where I am right now. Take a snapshot of where I am. And I need you to give me the tools that you learned either here or in spirit to help me move forward. And then you can call in your loved ones, like your mom or dad, whoever's in spirit that's very, very connected to you, and your angels and your masters and all of that. But with the belief that it's real, and the belief that they can really help. Because if you're just doing it robotically or mechanically, and you really don't believe it, like someone just told you to do it and you're like, nah, all right, I'll do it. It's not going to work. It's just because it's so much connected, as you also mentioned, Elix, earlier, it's connected with intention. And you have to actually believe and trust in the outcome of what's possible. And if that's not there, it's going to be a long haul, if you will.
Yeah. And Stephen, one of our favorite books that you and I have read, I've read it multiple times. In fact, I have it like on repeat on my Audible all the time, is The Secret, which is based on the law of attraction, which suggests that the energy that you put into your thoughts, whether it's positive or negative, draws similar experiences into your life. And The Secret is really about focusing on thoughts of abundance, success, gratitude. For instance, if you're more likely, when you focus on those thoughts, you then more likely to attract opportunities and people that are aligned with that same mindset. But again, easier said than done, right? So this is something that requires ongoing practice, and even for myself, like I find myself sometimes thinking, I mean, how many times have you corrected me when a simple word, I hope. I hope means you really don't believe it's going to happen. You think it may happen. You hope it happens as a possibility, but you're not quite sure. So we've learned to correct each other. We don't hope anything. We commit to something. We reframe it differently. Is that important, Stephen, in your experience as well?
Well, I think it's not important. I mean, it's important, but it's crucial to be very mindful of what you're thinking and really what you're saying and what you're doing. And again, it's not easy to sort of, again, take that inventory and see what's going on right now in your mind and what you're thinking. It's not easy, but I'll tell you one thing that can't happen is that, I always talk about, when I teach my courses, and if I'm in a particular level, I will always talk about how we have the personality and we have the soul. And we already talked about the soul, about it's infinite, and it's no birth, no death. It's just there forever, right? Which is beautiful. But that's where each one of us has our place of perfection, if you will. It's where our passions are, and our purpose, and our knowing, and our meaning, and all of that. And it's two separate things. So I think you can use your mind to do the observing and contemplating and choosing and everything you talked about, Elix, to get better, and really use your mind for getting yourself in the place you want to be. But this flip side of that, and the other side of that, is you can't do those exercises or what we're talking about if you're not in alignment with your soul. And your soul really is connected to whatever your divine is, whatever the highest is for you, whether it's God or something else. Just think of it as the highest. And so I guess to bring this down to a very simple level, you can't be spending an entire day of just being judgmental and mean, and walk into a store and see someone homeless and just look at them and either think or say, you could get a job, what the hell's wrong with you, and just go in and have that mindset, come home and start doing this. It's not going to work. It's just not.
Yeah, because it's not aligned.
No.
The actions are not aligned with purpose. And, but that's a great point, Stephen, because a lot of people, not that I want to, be judgmental, but I am. How often do we see? That's why we no longer go to church, because that was the thing. I experienced people going to church and, talking about the gospel, and then they walk out of church and they're jerks. So that's not living in alignment with what you believe, period.
No, and not all of them, mind you.
No,
not all of them.
Of course, not all of them. But that's my point. But I think that's the point, that you're making. And at the end of the day, I think the power of the mind is that our thoughts create our reality, and they become your thoughts can become self-fulfilling prophecies, meaning that what you think. If you think you're going to fail, you may unconsciously act in ways that is going to lead to failure. And that's, in ways, in everything is going to reinforce that belief. If you think, on the other hand, that you can succeed, you'll approach anything from that energy and determination, which will lead to success.
Well, let me just tell you quickly before we take a break that if your response to that example you just said about church is a response of, it's just not something that I want to participate going to church right now, just because of the way I'm feeling. But I just want to, send good light or positivity to people I've experienced that are in that position, because maybe there's things going on, and I'm sure there are, that I don't know. When you get to that place is really when you know that this is working. You're in alignment with your soul, because your soul doesn't have any judgment. So, but that's not easy. That is not easy to do, but it's something if we can strive for, then all of this power of the mind is like, oh my God, if I knew this. Spirit tells me when I do readings all the time, if I knew then what I know now, my life would be completely different in such a better way.
Mm-hmm. And how your life is going to be completely different?
You're going to buy me something?
No, we're going to have to take a break. Otherwise, your life will be completely different. We'll take a small break. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium, who is also my amazing husband. And we're having an amazing conversation about the power of our mind. And, we talked about our thoughts create our realities. And I'm going to offer, you know, some of what I think are practical steps to that are required to intentionally change or shift that mindset from old patterns of thinking to a new pattern, new way of thinking. So I would say, Stephen, and I'm gonna tell you what some of the things that I come to mind, but then I'm gonna leave you the floor, and you can take it from there. So, I think it's important to cultivate self awareness. Self awareness is everything. I think it's important that you challenge limiting beliefs. I think it's important that we practice positive affirmations, that we surround ourselves with positivity, that includes positive people, that we learn to reframe challenges as opportunities, that we focus on progress, not perfection, because none of us is perfect, and perfection, it's never a thing. That we adopt a learning mentality, we're always constantly learners. That we use visualization, because the visualization is really an important tool, and our mind really doesn't know the difference between real and visualization. It sees it as the same. And I think this is one that I've learned through Stephen. Practice gratitude, develop a growth oriented language, and be mindful, and practice mindfulness and meditation, which I should do more of. Take consistent action and celebrate those breakdowns, celebrate failures as learning moments, because failures don't necessarily mean that we're bad and wrong. It just means that something didn't work out, and we just need to try again, and the next time it may work out. What do you think, Stephen? You get to close the show today.
Well, every single thing that you said is perfect, Helix. It really is steps to be able to help anybody understanding or trying to figure out the power of the mind or who they are. I love that with when you said affirmations. My good friend, even though I don't know him, but in my head, I'm good friends with Wayne Dyer. And I'm sure a lot of people know who he is. One of the things that he always would sort of tell people to say is the I am. I am happy. I am healthy. I am financially sound, even if you're not. And that just starts the mind, from if you stick with that, it's just a matter of time before the physical, physical part of you in the surrounding area just jumps on board with the mind. It has no choice but to do that. So, and I love everything that you said. And I always say to somebody, I shouldn't say I always say to somebody, but in my courses, again, when I'm teaching, I at some point will say to people, if a good way to sort of summarize this is like before you either say something or you do something, just take a second to think, is this coming from your higher self or your lower self? Lower self meaning your ego. So if you're going to say something or do something that's coming from like a loving place or a serving place or like a non-judgmental state of peace or like a very sincere place, then it's coming from the higher self. And alternatively, if it's coming from a place of what's best for me or ownership or again, being judgmental or winning, then it's coming from a lower self. And it doesn't mean that you get rid of the whole ego piece, right? Because people love things, and like a very nice car may make a person very happy. I'm not saying you get rid of the lower self or the ego. I think you just need to tame it and make sure that you keep it in balance, and that you always have some element of the higher self to sort of think about and see where these decisions or what you're going to say are coming from. I think it's a really good gauge.
Yeah, and I just like you said, it's important to recognize that the ego is always going to be around. The ego is a part of you. So, and sometimes the ego is very helpful, right? So this is not about not necessarily, working with the ego. It's about recognizing when the ego is really blocking you from being that best version of yourself, or blocking you from stepping into doing something that you know you should be doing. I think that's how I see it, Stephen.
I completely agree. I remember I don't know where I saw this, but one gentleman was being interviewed, and he was really just so interesting. And he said it should really be called not the ego, but I go, because everything with the ego is about I.
Yes.
You know, it's just so focused and so selfish sometimes, and again so judgmental. So yeah, everything that you just said, I completely agree with.
Absolutely. So this has been an awesome conversation. Just the way every time we have conversations, again, it feels like it's you and I talking in our living room, and we are inviting all of you to join us in our conversation. So I'm so glad that we got to be able to talk to you about the power of our minds, and I hope that this conversation was of value to you today. So, Stephen, we have a few minutes before we get to the top of the hour. Is there anything that you want to say to close today's show? Remind people what you're up to, tell people how to find you, on and on and on.
Well, yeah, because if this feels like we're in the living room, just you and I chatting as we're sitting there,
we'd be talking for the rest of the day.
I need probably a new Burberry wallet. So, just saying.
Okay,
because you're setting this environment up,
Mark,
right?
It's my birthday, and he's now telling me what he needs. Okay. Oh my God.
Don't you worry, there, sir. You'll be taken care of. No, I hope
I am taken care of. By the way, I never worry. I don't need a thing. I have the life that I want. So.
Same here. But what I was about to say, and also just the last final comments about the subject of the show is please don't just think this is woo-woo stuff and that it's not going to work. That's why the majority of people do not get to that higher self and be able to again become multisensory. That's why the majority of people are where they are, and that doesn't mean that they're not in like great places, but it could be so much greater if they got this and understood this, and there's no time element attached to it. You can't just start this and think, well, by the end of the week I've been doing this for 5 or 7 days and nothing's changed, forget about it. You can't attach anything to this. You just, no expectations. You just do this with the trust and belief that this is working, and it starts from your mind. When you set your mind in a particular lane, every other piece of you is going to get in that lane ultimately. So keep that with you. And you can find me at Stephen the Medium on my website, social media. Check out my events, and I think that's it.
And they literally can find you this weekend tomorrow in Rainham.
You can see me in person, and you too. You can see you too.
You can see me in person. Just buy me a present for my birthday. Anyways, and you can find me at Coach Helix anywhere on social media. And if you're not following me, you should be following me. So, and we'll be back for our show, and it's likely going to be another thought-provoking conversation between Stephen and I next Friday, the 11th, because after that, we will be away for the following 2 weeks. So we will be sure to be here next Friday. So join us again. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jim Jones. Thank you, the staff at WARA, for everything that you do. And
Mark Show.
Mark, that's right. Okay, so today he said that if you are into Christmas music, which we are, He's gonna the first 15 minutes of his show.
No, starting at 2:15.
Starting at 2:15, Mark's Jukebox. So stay tuned. He's gonna play Christmas music. Yay!
4 songs, baby.
That's
so,
right. All right, everyone.
Listen.
Yes.
I'm telling people to listen. Listen to Mark's show, Mark's Jukebox.
I thought you wanted us to listen to you. Listen, we got to go. He's got to start his show. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.